Report. These are the actual audio reports of Special Agent Jake Taylor of the U.S. Unexplained Phenomena Administration. Covertly obtained recordings the government has kept secret of the strange things that happen where you live.
Everyone would like some art hanging in their home, and here's your chance to have originals of prints by Wheeze. Wheeze is a phenomenal artist known all over for her great work, including the Love Me Dog Art series. Check out artbywheeze.com today and get one of her amazing paintings or prints for your home. This is Special Investigator Jake Taylor with the U.S. Unexplained Phenomena Administration. The date is July 21st, 8/14/2036. Location of interest, latitude 29 degrees, 48 minutes, 56.8368 seconds north. Longitude 89 degrees, 53 minutes, 41.8956 seconds west, near New Orleans. I've encountered a lot of strange things in my time with the administration, but this one is in a league all its own. I arrived at New Orleans July 15th, 7:30 p.m., 2036. There were reports of people acting like zombies around New Orleans. These so-called zombies were robbing places, and none of them have been caught. I picked up the car rental I had reserved and headed out of the city to a house way off by itself in the middle of nowhere. It was dark when I got there, and the house sat near a swampy area. It was a small place with a high gabled roof and a porch that ran all the way around the house. Dim lighting came through the windows, and I wondered if the house had electricity. I didn't see any wires running to it. Before getting out of the car, I looked around for anything that might try to eat me. The swamps had all manner of things that would either suck the blood out of your body, poison it, or eat you whole. When I reached the door, I took a deep breath, not knowing what to expect. There was an odd smell drifting out through the screen windows that might have been dinner or something else. It took a few minutes for her to open the door, and the instant I saw her, I knew everything I heard about her was true. Yvette Laveau, Voodoo Queen, was not the gnarled-up old hag people would associate with practitioners of voodoo. She was without a doubt the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, and yet it wasn't just her beauty that captivated me. There was an air about her that instantly made you like her, and at the same time, if you had an ounce of sense, fear her. Her skin was pale like porcelain, and her hair was the darkest black with a violet cast to it. It shone with the light from the candles in the room reflecting off it. Her features were feminine and delicate, yet they had strength to them. She was about 5'6", standing in bare feet. Her figure was just round enough to show off curves that should have had hazard signs on them. But all of that disappeared when I looked into her eyes. They were bright emerald green and sparkled with humor as she watched me stare at her. "Come in, Jake." She turned and walked off into the house, and I followed her. It took a moment to realize she knew who I was before I told her. She went to the kitchen where things were simmering in pots on the stove, and the reason for the smells coming from the house. Stirring the pots with her back to me, she asked, "Have I been such a problem that your administration has sent you to speak with me?" She turned, and I looked into those eyes again and forgot to talk. "Sit down, Jake." She pointed to a kitchen chair, and I sat. She smiled at me, and it seemed the whole world just became a better place. That's when the alarm bells went off in my head. She was bewitching me. I fought it off. Nice try. Her smile had mischief behind it. "Oh, Jake, I haven't tried anything. Why do you suppose I live so far away from everyone else? What you experience happens to men and women any time they are near me, and it is not something I do on purpose. My ancestor, Marie Laveau, was known as the Voodoo Queen for a reason. People worshipped her through no fault of her own. I wondered about this ability we have and had some testing done. It turns out it's quite easily explained scientifically. The women in my family secrete a powerful pheromone that makes us irresistible to anyone around us. So much so it seems that those affected by it will do anything for us. Like becoming your zombies? Yes, but not in the way you mean. Not all the women in my family have been concerned with those who have fallen under the spell of this pheromone. Some were known to use it intentionally. That is what created the myth of zombies. People are more comfortable with things once they've labeled them. The truth is, once these people are away from us for a short while, the effects wear off. Of course, if they are given to a very strong dose, it can be irreversible. Over time, we have learned how to control it, to tone it down, or, if so, to secrete more. I've never liked the term zombie. It's an ugly word. I prefer to think of them as my puppets. She leaned in close to me, putting her lips near my ear, and whispered, "Would you like to be my puppet, Jake? Would it not be so nice to do things to please me?" Before leaving D.C., knowing what I was walking into, the docs at the administration gave me a shot that's supposed to block the effects of pheromones. We knew all about the Voodoo Queen and what she could do. I think I'll pass on the whole puppet thing, thanks. She stood up suddenly and stared at me, puzzled. She reached out slowly with her hand and caressed my cheek. The smile returned to her lips, and she let out a soft, My head began to spin, and the world was getting foggy, hazy. It was hard to concentrate. She was so beautiful. I was in love with her, needed to do anything to please her. Those thoughts swam in my head as the room turned black, and I was drifting along happy just to be in her presence. Somewhere in the back of my mind a little voice kept saying, "This is wrong." Why was it wrong? It felt so good. I didn't want it to end. I just wanted to be near her and please her. So much love for her. She was everything. Her voice sounded in my head like beautiful music that entranced me. She said she was very pleased with me, and a feeling of pure bliss washed over me. My body was moving, going somewhere, doing something, but I didn't care. Time passed without meaning or comprehension. Only she mattered. The sun streaming into my face got my attention. I slowly opened my eyes. My first thought was, where is Yvette? Then, how did I get in my car? What day is it? I forced my eyes all the way open and looked around. The car hadn't moved from where I had parked it when I first came to her house. The door to the house was closed. I took a sudden deep breath like I had forgotten to even breathe and fought to clear my head. Then I heard a voice. It was Yvette, but it was coming from inside my head. "When your head clears, come in for coffee. Please don't worry. If I wanted you for my puppet, you would not have woken up this morning. I will explain when I see you." There is no way to adequately describe what happened. It was like my mind had left my body, or maybe not so much leave as lose all ability to think for myself. It was all a blur with no memory of what happened after she touched me. My watch said 7 a.m. July 16th, so it had just been one night. It could have been days, even weeks, and there'd be no way for me to know until coming out of her spell, or whatever you want to call it. Memo to the docs. Your pheromone blocker is useless. Come up with something a lot stronger, please. Driving as far away as I could, as fast as I could, seemed like a real good idea. The feeling of bliss, along with the desire to be near her, was still lingering, but not overpowering. What would happen if I got a second dose of her? Would I be lost for good, a zombie, or as she prefers, her puppet? I pulled out my cell phone and called her. I could hear her phone ringing across the yard. "Jake," she was laughing, "you don't trust me. What the hell did you do to me? What did I do while I was unconscious or subconscious or whatever the hell you call it?" She laughed again. "Nothing, Jake. Absolutely nothing except telling you to go sit in your car with the windows up and sleep." I don't remember any of that. Not surprising. You do not understand why I did that to you and then let you come back to reality? I'm listening. To prove to you that I have no ill intentions. Just saying that I have not been behind these robberies that brought you here would not have convinced you. I had to prove to you my intentions are good. Come in, have coffee. It will clear your head, and I promise I will behave. There wasn't much else to do, and she could have kept me under a spell if she had wanted to. I sat down on the opposite side of the table from her. There was no way she was going to touch me again. She still had that teasing smile on her beautiful, full lips. Even without the pheromones, this woman could get a man to do a lot of stupid things for her if she wanted them to. I took a long sip of the coffee without fear of it being drugged. She had no need of spiking drinks. "Okay, Yvette, I'm listening." "It is simple, is it not? Someone is getting these people to steal for them. Naturally, with the way these people are acting and the location, you thought it was me. Your people knew of my existence. I am being set up, and I want to help clear myself. You think someone is drugging these people to get them to steal for them? Do you suppose I am the only one with these abilities? We have no record of anyone else with your abilities. So, you have no record of them. You think that means they do not exist? Okay, let's say there is someone out there who can do what you do. How do you propose to catch them?" She laughed. "I could have found them any time I wished, but then what? I need you to take her into custody and lock her away, where she can do no more harm. That is the only way to keep your administration from bothering me. I like my privacy. That is why I live in such a secluded place." "Okay, how do we find her?" "I can sense where she is. We will go in your car and I will give you directions." "All right, and by the way, stay out of my head, will you? I hate that." She laughed. "Okay, Jake." We headed back to New Orleans. "You know, Jake, you are a good-looking man, and your mind is strong. I like that." "Thanks. I didn't know where she was going with that, and I didn't want to. Well, part of me didn't want to. Other parts were very happy about it." "Jake, I am a woman, and I like the company of a man. It is difficult to find one, though, that I am willing to spend time with socially. I thought you were going to stay out of my head." "I have not looked into your mind. I don't need to. What you're thinking is plain on your face, and how you tensed up so suddenly." I turned up the air conditioning in the car. "Let's keep this strictly on a business level, okay? All I want to do is catch this woman and lock her up and get the hell away from here." For a fleeting moment there was a look of hurt on her face, but it was gone in an instant, and other than giving directions, she kept silent the rest of the way. New Orleans in places is a beautiful city that makes you feel you've stepped back in time to a world of horse-drawn carriages, men in top hats, and women in wide-skirted dresses and corsets. A time when duels were fought over perceived insults to honor, and somewhere offshore sat a pirate ship. We drove through the narrow lanes with people walking close to the brick walls on either side to avoid being run over. The city was just starting to wake up, like someone after a 3-day binge. I had the feeling it was like that here every morning. This is one of the biggest party places on Earth. She pointed to an old wooden door set in the bricks in an alley as we approached it. That is where she is. Make it right at the next corner. There is a parking place there. Sure enough, there was one parking space open along a wide street, but I didn't ask her how she knew that. I could guess. Jake, would you wait here for me to get her and bring her to you? It will be dangerous for you. I felt the weight of the gun in my shoulder holster. The first sign of anyone playing with my mind and I'll shoot you both. She actually laughed. You say the sweetest things. And then she got out of the car. The fact that she wasn't worried about my gun made me worry even more. All sorts of things were running through my head as we approached that door in the alley. What was I walking into? Was this some sort of trap? No, Yvette didn't need to set traps. Could I keep my head clear long enough to shoot anyone if I had to? Damn it, I was getting paranoid. Memo to Docs. Make the damn formula stronger. It was useless. Is she as powerful as you? No, but she is powerful enough to easily make you her puppet. I will do what I can to protect you, but I make no promises. Real reassuring that was. I decided against knocking, better to catch her off guard. The door was locked, so I took out my lockpicks. Yvette put a hand on my arm and opened the door. She already knows we are here, Jake. She is waiting for us. I thought about waiting outside like Yvette suggested in the car, but I just couldn't do it. The door opened onto a landing with stairs going up and down. A voice called out from upstairs. Come up. I've been waiting for you. If anything, she sounded bored, like this was a minor inconvenience. I led the way up, and she was sitting on a Victorian-looking couch with legs crossed and sipping something from a cup. I didn't hesitate a second, pulled out my gun and aimed it right at her. It was a tranq gun, loaded with enough knockout juice to give her a long sleep, long enough to have her picked up and flown to a secure place, made up especially for people who needed to be kept isolated. Yvette spoke. Hello, Cassandra. You've been doing bad things again. So? She still sounded bored and didn't even take notice of the gun pointing at her. You think you're going to arrest me and put me in some miserable little jail? That is exactly what I'm going to do. Foolish male. I can take your mind any time I wish. Yvette had gone silent and was staring at Cassandra intently. Yvette, I sense what you are trying to do. You are not powerful enough. Cassandra dropped her cup and stood up. Her look of boredom was gone, and the air in the room was charged with something that must have been a battle going on between them. I watched them both, fascinated by the duel being fought out silently in front of me. Yvette stepped back suddenly like she was pushed, but braced herself and came towards Cassandra. Inches apart, Yvette's eyes narrowed to slits, and I half expected lightning bolts to come out of those eyes. Cassandra took a deep breath, and the look on her face was murderous. They weren't fighting to take control of each other's mind. They were trying to destroy each other. The effects of the battle raging between them was starting to overflow into my head, and the room was starting to move around me. The room grew slowly darker. If Yvette was trying to protect me while fighting Cassandra, it would weaken her ability and she might lose the fight. The thought of what Cassandra would do to me if she won flashed through my mind, just as the blackness was almost complete, and I could feel myself starting to fall over. With my last conscious effort, I fired the dart straight at her, then blacked out. I was in a place where there was no light, just total darkness. I wanted the light. I wanted to be in that light, but something was holding me. I fought against it, trying to struggle free from its black, oily grasp. There it was, a very faint glimmer, way off in the distance, but the air around me was like some thick sludge that was almost impossible to move through. Slowly I became aware that something or someone else was in there with me. There was a vague outline coming closer to me. I strained to make out what it was. Finally, the outline took the shape of a person. Was this someone else Cassandra had trapped? The outline spoke. "Come, Jake. Take my hand and I will bring you out." It was Yvette. I took her hand and little by little the thickness of the sludge lessened and the light ahead grew brighter. Finally, after what seemed like agonizing hours of pushing through the sludge, I was back in Cassandra's room, with the sun shining through the windows. "I thought it would be okay to enter your mind this time." I managed a weak smile. "Yes, and thank you." "Jake, you needn't have put her to sleep. She was no match for me." I sat up slowly, but didn't even try to stand yet. Maybe not, but I would have had to do it anyway to safely get her out of here and locked up. Yvette went off for a few minutes and came back holding a glass of some liquid. "Drink this. It will help." The smooth whiskey slid down my throat, and when it hit my stomach, it felt really good. "Thanks." An hour later, the agents I called showed up to take Cassandra off to a place where she will never again be able to invade anyone's mind. I hoped. Being in that blackness was the worst experience of my life. It was a feeling of absolute hopelessness and despair. After the agents left with Cassandra, Yvette and I walked out to my car and headed back to her place. I was still feeling a little wobbly. "Jake, you need to rest before you go anywhere. You can stay with me while you recover. I will take care of you." Take care of me? What did she have in mind? I decided I didn't care, and I stopped wondering about that too. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Besides, I still had my trank gun if I needed it, but somehow I knew I wouldn't. That's my report. The next time you're having problems with a Voodoo Queen, get someone else to go. Everyone would like some art hanging in their home, and here's your chance to have originals of prints by Wheeze. Wheeze is a phenomenal artist known all over for her great work, including the Love Me Dog Art series. Check out artbywheeze.com today and get one of her amazing paintings or prints for your home. This recording and its contents is copyrighted and may not be used in part or in whole by anyone for any reason other than to listen to where authorized.